got really hot in here when you entered the room.
Boom.
Boom. Cool. So I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me today. This is a special edition of Church, Sunday Church with the one and only T Double.
What up?
Based out of Austin, Texas.
Yes.
I want to start with a tiny little story of just how this man, in the tiniest ways, has inspired me to be the best human being that I can possibly be. This is the third time I've tried to do this interview with Double, and I believe third time is always a charm. And I'm going to rewind real quick. About 6 months or so ago in February, I played a show and I had a wild night. I'm a firecracker, man, and most of the stories you hear about me are probably true, but remember, there's always 3 sides or 6 to every story. So just remember that. There's my side, there's their side, and there's the real side of the story.
Right.
And so all those combined make the truth. Anyways, back in February, I played a gig, had a badass time, and then decided to go out and break my 2 front teeth. And I was about to go on tour. I was supposed to leave in like 3 days, so I had to like rush into the dentist, get a fake tooth. They call it a flipper, stick it up in the gum, and they tell me, you know, make sure you come back in after tour because your flipper's not gonna fit after your gums start healing up and everything. Well, COVID comes around and my gum heals up and I'm stuck without a front tooth for about 5 months. Okay. Super depressed, didn't want to leave the house, obviously. I mean, it was a great timing, right? COVID, we couldn't really leave the house anyways.
Mm-hmm.
People definitely look at you differently when you don't have your front teeth. And I caught myself smiling a few times and forgetting that I had no front teeth and the look on people's eyes. It's pretty funny. So dentist opened up, you know, finally in July. I was able to get another flipper to replace the old one because implants are just way too expensive right now. You know, whatever, it's fine. I don't mind. And I wake up yesterday and my flipper is broken in half. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I cried. I mean, it probably sounded like one of my dogs had like died or something. Like like my whole mind was like, oh my God, like I was just in tears. I was so upset. And I was like, you know what? It's okay, sunshine. We're going to get through this because we have an interview with T Double. And this man, he has gone through everything, the ups and the downs, you know, since he was 9 years old. This man has been struggling through adversity and you have been, you know, rising and shining to the top. I'm like, if this man can do this, you most definitely can do an interview with a broken tooth. And you know, I am so blessed that we did not do that interview yesterday because I did go live for a minute and my tooth nearly fell out of my mouth. So I went and purchased some Polygrip today at Rite Aid and it was on sale for $4.99. Woo woo! And Sunshine is here with T Double and
there it is.
There it is, baby. And so I just want you to know that you inspire me in so many ways. And I know that that's a very vain inspiration because obviously it's all superficial, but you know, it's the little things. It's the little things, man. So I want to introduce T Double. He is the man. He is the superstar, born, raised, Austin hip-hop legend. And we want to know all about you, T Double. I want to hear from the very beginning. I want to know all about your start and your rise to the top. And I know that your mother and your father are huge influences in that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, you know, start off, say thank you for having me. I'm glad we can finally get this going. We've tried and tried and tried again, and here we are. We made it. Yes, we made it. So thank you for being on here. It's good to talk to you and see you on here. But yeah, my parents have, you know, always supported me, and music was a great thing in my life growing up because it kept me out the streets, right? It kept me from running with gangs and dope dealers, and I had one side of our apartment was dope dealer, the other side was a pimp. You know, we had all this stuff I could have easily fell into.
Were you growing up on the east side of Austin?
Yeah. I'm straight from the east side of Austin.
So for those of us who aren't familiar with the east side of Austin, can you kind of explain that to us?
Well,
Back in those days, obviously there's
yeah.
been a transition.
The city of Austin has always been split by I-35, the interstate, right? So you have the west side of Austin, which was mostly the affluent, usually a lot of the white folks lived over there. And then the east side, like in almost every city, there's an MLK Boulevard and
Sure, yeah.
all that, right? And that's on the east side. So I lived on the east side, like Manor Road, where it used to be a lot of apartments and projects, but now those are gentrified, so those are condos now.
Yes.
And my old neighborhood doesn't exist now. But that's where I live, and it was real rough growing up, right? Like I had to walk to school, I had to walk through all these neighborhoods and all this stuff. But music was always something that I was drawn to. And in elementary, I was always in the music class. We lived behind a record store, so my dad always had tons of vinyl and records. And I would just sit there and just listen to records whenever he played records, you know what I mean? I would just like, I was drawn to the music, like how the drummer played, how the guitar played. And, you know, even at a young age, I was like, what are they doing? What is that? It sounds so amazing. And so, you know, when I was around 8 years old, Christmas came around and my mom was like, what do you want? And all my other friends were getting footballs and fire trucks and bicycles and all that stuff. And I told her I wanted a keyboard. I was like, I want a little sampler. I want something I can just sit in my bedroom and just mess around. So she got me a keyboard. And that's when I started making my demos, you know, going to Sears with her, you know, like the story goes. We went to Sears.
I love this story so much.
We went to, you know, we would go to Sears every Sunday and she would go to, I think she basically went every Sunday just so I could go make some music. Cause we went a lot and didn't buy a lot. But we would go and she would shop for like about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I would go to the music department and I would take a tape from my dad, like a blues tape, and I would put it in the boombox. And then I would get a keyboard from the keyboard department, put it in front of the boombox and use one of the presets, you know, bossa nova, waltz, those type of things. And then I would just play along with that and I would cut songs at Sears.
I love that story so much.
And so, you know, listening to songs, I just assume a song is 5 minutes long. So I would play the preset, play along with it, sing or rap for 5 minutes. I would stop, wait about 30 seconds, hit another preset and work on song 2.
Wow.
So that's how I would, you know, so every Sunday we would go, I would probably go back home with like 5 or 6 songs. And even the people at Sears, at first they were like, hey kid, stop that. Eventually they were like, he's here every weekend. He's not stealing. Let him do it.
Oh,
so
wow.
I made my demo and then I told my mom I wanted to get a record deal. You know, I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. And she said, well, how are you going to do that? And I said, I guess I'm going to wait for an A&R or somebody, you know, the music people to find me. They'll, you know, that's how they find talent, right? They just fall out of the sky. And she said, well, that's not going to work that way. So, you know, my mom's a teacher, so she's all about thinking and, you know, using your brain. She said, how are you right now going to get a record deal? So I said, well, I got a bunch of records from my dad. So I just went through the records one day and the record I pulled out was Prince, Controversy. Okay. And I turned the record over and I saw he was on Warner Brothers Records. He was on Warner Brothers and I saw it said produced, arranged, composed. You know, all his albums said that by one guy. And I said, oh, that's how you make a record. You do it all yourself. So I was never taught that you needed a band.
Yeah.
I thought if this one guy made a record, I could make a record by myself. So I saw Warner Brothers, me and my mom, we caught the metro, caught the bus. Back then you would have to take maybe 3 buses to get downtown from my house. She rode the bus with me to the post office. I put my package up there. I had my own money, my allowance. I had been saving. And I mailed my first demo to Warner Brothers. And I was 9 years old. I was 9 years old and I did that.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so that was my start. And from then they wrote me back. I got a letter back and it said, hey, this is awesome. We're not signing any kids right now, but keep your head up and keep going. And to me, that was like getting a record deal. I was like, oh man, they wrote me back. I actually got a letter. So that's what really propelled me to keep doing it. I was like, if they like it now, wait till I get older and I get better. They really gonna want me then. So I just stuck with it. And that was the beginning of my whole journey. Wow. So anybody who knows me from Austin, they say, oh, Terrany, oh, he does music. Because that's what I've been known for since, you know, 5th grade.
Wow, I love this story. There's a lot of people that live in Austin, but it's hard to find local Austinites that have actually been born and raised there. And
Yeah,
that's neither here nor there. But
right.
coming from the live capital music of the world, it's very it's hard to find an actual musician that was
Yeah.
born and raised. So woo
It's
woo, we found them, folks.
a unicorn. They call me a unicorn. Yeah, I'm one of those rare things that you come across. But
Yeah.
it's even being in the live music capital of the world before the pandemic was even hard being a musician. You know what I mean? Because everybody's fighting for gigs. Everybody's trying to get a record deal. Everybody's trying to do the same thing. So it's all about how do you differentiate yourself from the pack to be able to stand out. And
Exactly.
and I just worked really hard. You know what I mean? It's like I just made sure I put out the best music I could put out. Make sure that my live shows were good. Make sure I did the best freestyles. Make sure that I was always ready when the opportunity came to be on it. Like you never caught me slacking. You look at my Facebook or whatever, I'm working as hard now as I did when I was like 21.
Yeah. I
So
I
I
read
stay on
some
it.
I read somewhere that you spend 10 hours a day in the
Yep,
studio.
yep, yep. Probably more. You know what I mean? I wake up, I check my emails. 'Cause I do a lot of licensing, film and stuff. I'll check my emails and then I'm up here in the studio all day just going. I have a couch back there, so I'll take a nap up here. I'll sleep for a little bit, wake up, get back to doing it again. You know what I mean? Like music literally saved my life. Like it is definitely the engine that moves me. My mom used to say when I lived with her that if she came home and it was quiet in the house, that I might be sick. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
So there's no music, there's no noise, right? Like what's going on? So yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. So can you tell us a little bit of the evolution from, turning in a demo, um, when you were 9 years old, and then I also read you used to sell your mixtapes on the
Yep.
drag when you were about 19.
Yep.
And then so then that evolved into live shows,
Yep. Yep.
and then into production and getting your
Yep.
studio and all.
Yeah. I probably started getting the studio together maybe around 15 is when I started buying stuff
Okay.
because I always wanted to record myself. And I have such a heavy output of music and creative energy. I'm always creative that if I had to go to a studio, I would lose the vibe. I would lose that idea of the song. So I
Sure.
like having my own stuff here. I can just grab a mic and like here at my house, like I have 2 rooms with studios. This is kind of like my main room with like all my synths and stuff. Kind of see, there's drum machines. There's some more keyboards over there.
Wow. Whoa. Yeah, man. Like,
You
I
know,
about Tutopia Studios, and I just couldn't even like process how in the world
yeah,
you had so much equipment. But it makes sense if you've been collecting since you were 15 years old.
yeah. I got a bunch of vintage stuff, vintage microphones, and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Because I always wanted to be able to just record whenever. Like when I get an idea, I just want to be able to put it down and put it in Pro Tools, save it to my hard drive, and I move on to the next song. I don't really linger on it. I like to create songs that are in the moment and don't spend too much time constructing and composing and all that. So,
Really?
so yeah, so
Okay.
so around 15, I started getting gear. When I was late teens, closer to 20s, I was on the drag a lot, selling cassette tapes and really pushing, like they say, out the trunk. I literally did that, you know what I mean? Moving cassettes out the
Yeah.
trunk. I got a job at Tower Records on the drag because I wanted to know, how does retail work?
Yeah.
How can an artist sell their music? How can you get positioning in the store that when you walk in the store, you'll see, Bruce Springsteen right by the door? Why is that, right? I always had those questions. So I said, what better way to learn than to get a job there?
Yeah.
So I got a job at Tower Records, and I was selling my music in Tower Records, and
Of course you
of,
were.
of course I was. And I was helping a lot of other local artists get their music in Tower Records on consignment and make sure they can do that. And then still getting gear. And at this time, I usually put out about 2 T-double albums a year.
Wow.
That was my output for a while. I was doing 2 albums a year. And then, I started working for South by Southwest later on, doing all the hip hop for them. And at the same time I was doing that, I was working for Arista Records. We had an Arista Records office here, you know, which is like LaFace, Bad Boy, all that. Well, I worked for the Austin chapter. So I was doing South by Southwest and Arista Records at the time. And then I, you know, they flew me out to San Diego, South by Southwest did. And that's where I got my record deal. And that's where I created Kinetic, basically the label, because it was a label deal. So I could come back to Austin and sign artists. I've never been signed as an artist to a label. I've always been an executive. I've always had a label, a publishing company, a studio, mastering, all that. I came into it thinking ownership.
Yeah,
you know?
no, obviously, obviously, since you were 9 years old, you come into it thinking this way. I read somewhere when I was doing my stalking on you that you that you worked with, was it Young Guru? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, they had a thing. There's a thing called Mix with the Masters.
Okay.
And basically what they do is they find different producers from around the world, and they invite you to go to France.
Oh.
And when you go to France, you get to work with, you know, an engineer or a producer. When I got invited, Young Guru was the instructor. And so I got to go out there and mix a record with him and freestyle with him and talk music with him and mix, you know, just really pick up. It's like if you want to be a chef and you study under, you know, Wolfgang Puck.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was like that with Young Guru, where I studied under him and I got a certificate from graduation and I learned all these skills from him. And it was amazing because it was like, it's a week course for a whole week and you're living in this mansion, right? And you have, you know, a maid, a chef, a cook, you have a swimming pool, a weight room, you have access to everything there. And all you have to do is make music.
Wow, it sounds like a dream come true.
Yes, it was 24-hour access to the studio. So when some people were sleeping or, you know, drinking wine, you know, because France is all about the wine. Some people were drinking wine. I was in the studio because that's just how I worked. So me and Young Guru, when I was in the studio, he was in the studio. And I think because he didn't want to be shown up by me working harder than him.
Gotcha.
So we were always next to each other at the mixing. You know, if you look on Facebook, I have some pictures of me and him in the studio at the mixing console. We were always working.
Sweet. And for the viewers that may not know who Young Guru is, could you give us a little introduction about him?
Yeah, well, Young Guru is the engineer, producer for Jay-Z and Jay Electronica and quite a few other artists. Kanye, he's mixed Kanye West records. He basically worked with Jay-Z and Rockefeller Records.
Wow, the big hitters.
He's a big hitter. Almost every time Jay-Z gets a Grammy, Young Guru gets a Grammy.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's a lot of Grammy talk. So to be around those type of guys and just soaking it up, just soaking up that knowledge, right, of what to do, what not to do, music business, studio etiquette, all these things. A lot of things I learned then I utilize now when I'm mixing records and when I'm working on music, you know what I mean? So that was an amazing experience. And a lot of other guys that were from Dubai, London, you know, the other guys who were there with my group. So now we got that global friendship, you know what I mean? So it was like family. It was great, yeah.
And how did you get that opportunity?
They just reached out to me. Like, I just got an email one day. It was like, hey, we saw, you know, your social media and what you're doing. And, you know, would you be interested?
That's amazing. That is so cool.
And I said, yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to ask me twice about that.
Exactly.
So you are a voting member of the Grammy Awards, Texas chapter producer / engineer. So does that mean that you cannot actually run for a Grammy since you?
No, yeah, you can.
Oh, you can. Okay.
You can. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. You know, because I'm a voting member, so I can, but I'm not on like the board of trustees or the higher level of voting committees. Like the committees go way up till they vote for the people you see on TV. That's a whole nother group that I'm not part of that. But if you're a voting member, yeah, you can submit your albums, and like every year for the last 10 years, each one of my albums has been in consideration on the ballot for Grammys. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh my goodness. One question I didn't ask you, do you have the letter still from Warner Brothers?
I think my mom did. I think my mom has that demo
Uh-huh.
and that letter.
Of course she does. Of
Yeah.
course she does.
Because it's funny, here's a story. When they wrote me back and told me that that they dug the song, my mom took my picture and she went down to the Austin American-Statesman, our local newspaper, and she had them put my picture in the paper and say that I was submitting music and that
Oh.
all these things. Like, so my mom has always been super supportive. Like, that's why I named one of my records Rosie's Boy. And I think that picture might have been the one that she put in the paper. I'm not sure, but it was me in a big old afro. But yeah.
Oh, I was just listening to that album earlier.
Yeah.
Since I've been obsessing over your music the past week, and it's on replay on my YouTube. My pig loves your music, by the way.
Nice. I like the pig.
He wags his tail to the beat.
That's good. That's good.
Could you talk to me a little bit about licensing and how you do all that? Because I did notice you have so many awards and so many things going for you, but I know something that a lot of viewers will recognize is Breaking Bad, since it was such a huge hit and still is. And you actually had one of your songs featured on season 4 of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And so you have a nice little plaque on your wall and everything fun like that. Now tell everybody at home who wants to know, how did you make that happen?
Okay, so let me start from the beginning with the whole licensing thing. I was at South by Southwest and I was at a music panel on hip hop.
Okay.
About hip hop sample clearances. Because one thing about me is during South by, I would go to the legal panels. That was the main thing I would go to. I wouldn't go for the free drinks. I wouldn't go walk around, and I would go to the legal panels. So I went to a panel on sampling, and I went to the lady who's on the panel when it was over, and I said, "Do you do licensing?" And she said, "No, I don't, but I have a friend who does." And I said, "Oh, I would love to talk to her because I think that's going to be the future, right? I think that's what everybody's going to want to do." So she connected me with her friend, and her friend called me, and she said, "I hear you want to do licensing." And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, how much music do you have?" At that time, I think I had 15 albums, right? And she said, "Okay, cool." And she sent me a contract. So I signed to her without her even hearing my music.
Wow.
But just based off her friend co-signing me, saying, "He's a really cool guy." Like, of course I had to follow it up with music afterwards, but this goes to saying about relationships.
Sure.
When you have good relationship, they can just pass you on. So I got with her and I started submitting her music. And she said, "Well, it's probably going to take maybe 50 tries before we play something," right? Lucky for me, it only took maybe 3 songs, and she was already putting my stuff in commercials and other type of things. So it was happening really quick. But the thing about licensing is now it's evolved a little bit. Some agencies, they want 50% of your publishing, right? Because that's where your money is, right? And some agencies will give you upfront money. They'll say, "Here's, for sake of conversation, here's $10,000 for me to use Sunshine and the Boom Squad," right? Say that's your band.
I like that.
Right? They say, here's $5,000 for that, $10,000. So
hey, you gave me 20,000 earlier, okay?
Right. Here's 10,000. So they'll say you can say, "Okay, I'll take that 10,000," because you might have bills, you might have life, right? But then you're relinquishing your publishing and your masters, and that's your long-term money. Like with Breaking Bad, that show has been off the air for 10 plus years.
No, it has not.
It's in America. It's still being shown around the world. But in America, it's been off the air for like 10 plus years until they have a Breaking Bad marathon or something like that.
Dude, I didn't even realize it was made 10 years ago.
It's been that long, right? So, and this tells you about publishing. I still get publishing checks from that show, from when it's being aired in Japan, India, because they do voiceovers, but the music remains the same.
Yeah.
So I still get checks from that. And then, of course, they'll do a Breaking Bad marathon on A&E or HBO or something. I'll get a check again from that. So publishing is nonstop. Publishing will come forever.
And what about Netflix? Like,
yeah, you get Netflix too. You get Netflix. You get Redbox. There are some different companies in hotels. So if your music is streamed in a hotel, like if you're on tour and you're in your hotel room, they have a different service than the regular cable. So you receive another check from hotel streams.
Wow.
So there's so many revenue streams from Synth, but it only really works in your benefit if you retain the ownership of the music, the publishing and the master. Okay, like so if you're doing a deal with somebody, you can give them some of your publishing, maybe, depending on what they can do for you. But I always try to keep your publishing, because that's what's going to last. The money they give you right now is going to be gone. You're going to spend that on whatever. Sure. But the publishing, your publishing check will always come forever. Because, you know, when I got sick, right, because I had kidney failure, right? So I'm on dialysis and all that. When I got sick, I couldn't perform anymore. Yeah. Right? My publishing was still coming in. So I was still making a living. I was still able to pay mortgage, still able to eat, still all that. But if I didn't have that publishing, I'd have been like, damn, what am I going to do? Do I need to get back on 6th Street and start rapping again? You know what I'm saying? So you got to be thinking, you got to think long term.
How did you, I mean, so you just figured it, you're self-taught basically, right? I mean, you looked at the back of the album, your Prince is your credit for your #1, you know, inspiration. Yeah. And so you've done it all yourself, and you know, you don't drink or smoke. I mean, you at least you reference that a lot in your music. So you can stay very focused on what you're doing. And I think that's a very big inspiration to a lot of people as well too. So thank you so much for that, because that is a good message to put out there.
And you know, and not to interrupt you, but a big part of my life that, like, probably when I was around my late teens was, I met a woman named Jan Bozart. She's like my second mother. Okay. And she worked for Warner Brothers. She was there when they had Prince. And she came to Austin. She was starting a program for at-risk youth to create a record label called Tribes Records. So I auditioned. She brought me in. We went to a studio. We cut a record. And her first gift to me was a book about the music business. And in that book, she had a page with like sticky notes or whatever on it, which was about publishing. And this is when I was young, didn't know anything about the music business. She said, read this. She said, read the whole book, but read this part. Yeah. This is the part that will save your ass many times to come. And it has. And that was the time when I really thought about publishing, got on my radar then. I was like, that's interesting. Like, I don't really know what it means, but it's something I should keep. I should keep that no matter what deal I get. So that was when I really started getting educated. And then I just started surrounding myself with people in the music business who were actually doing it and who cared about me and not getting a percentage from me.
And I think that's the biggest thing to kind of reiterate is that, you know, as musicians, people are always just trying to look for that big deal or like that, you know, I got signed and just kind of signing away everything just for that title of being able to, for the recognition. And of course it does feel good in the, you know, it feels good, you know, right here and right now. But then what happens later on when, you know, you're a struggling musician again, because you've sold yourself, you know, or your music off to somebody. So I think that's very important for everybody to kind of, you know, realize, and I'm sure everybody does, but maybe a little bit more thought needs to be put into, you know, how much of yourself do you really sell if you do get a record contract or you are approached by somebody to use your music.
The music industry and record deals are not designed and have never been designed for the benefit of the artist, ever. So it is up to us as creatives to know what we want, when we want it, how to negotiate it, know our own value, our own worth. And when I started out, I had 5-year plans. Where do I want to be in 5 years? If I structure a deal right now, I got to make sure it's going to benefit me 5 years from now. Yeah. So I don't ever just say, I want a great deal right now, and so I can look cool and say I got a record deal. I always told people, I'd rather be silently wealthy than flamboyantly poor.
I love that. Yeah, man.
So,
that's a good quote.
Yeah.
I'm going to get it tattooed on my forehead so I remember.
Do it. Do it.
Sick, man. So you've worked with a lot of amazing Austin artists. You've worked with, I mean, artists from just all over. And your studio is just amazing. Could you tell us just a little bit about some of the gear that you have in your studio that attracts so many people?
Everything, really. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people, they're more surprised that I'm a hip hop artist with all the stuff I have. Because when you think of hip hop artists, they're mostly on the laptop, you know, that's their whole thing. But I have Moogs. I have 5 Moogs. I have the Moog Prodigy, the Moog Slim Fatty, the Moog MG1, the Moog Grandmother, and the Moog Subharmonicon that just came out. And I have, you know, Juno 106s. I have like 3 or 4 vintage drum machines. And that's just in this room, chord, micro chords and stuff.
I read that you got your drum track. Oh, wait, was this your drum track for $40?
Yeah. That was the drum tracks, drum machine.
And that you will never sell it because that man did not know what he was selling to you.
You know, the story behind that was a studio was closing. And I went to the studio to buy some racks so that I could put my hardware in. And when I was leaving, I glanced across the room and I saw the edge of the drum machine. And I had been looking for drum machines, right? And I was like, oh, what's that? And he was like, oh, just some old drum machine from the 80s or whatever, 70s. I was like, oh, let me check it out. And I said, a drum tracks? I was like, what? Because there's, you know, it's in great condition and so hard to find. And I was like, it's just sitting up under this carpet. I said, I want it. I said, how much is it? He said, well, it's not mine. I got to call the guy. So he called the guy who was like their maintenance guy or whatever. And he said, this kid wants to buy this drum machine. The guy was like, what is it? And he said, oh, it's the drum track. And he was like, just tell him $40. And me and the guy looked at each other. We said, $40? And I said, ask him again. He said, $40? He said, yeah, just $40. So I ran across the street to the ATM. I got $40. I came back, I gave him $40 for the drum machine, and it's been in my possession ever since.
And it ain't going nowhere.
It ain't going nowhere. It's very rare you can stumble across a find like that. I was like, it's not going nowhere.
Oh.
But yeah, so I got that. I got the Lynn drum. I got the Oberheim DX. And that's just in this room. And then my next room over there is where I have my drums, my Rhodes. I have a couple of bass guitars, you know, and just random stuff, tambourines and rather percussion. And I do a lot of vocals in that room.
Is that also, sorry, go ahead.
I do a lot of vocals in there and also do vocals here. Like, let me show you if I can show you over here. See, I got a mic stand here. So I can cut vocals in here when I want to too. You know, I have everything accessible at all times. So
which room do you normally go live from? Because I've seen you do
a
couple live streams.
In the main room, yeah. So I can have like all my gear around. Because, you know, sometimes I'll make beats. I'll be making beats live or whatever. So I just do it all in here. But like I said, people come over here and they're like, I got SSL stuff. I got Neve stuff. I got API stuff. I got, you know, distressors. I got, you know, vintage Neves. I got vintage Neumann EQs. You know, I got stuff that big studios in Austin don't have. Some of my friends who have big studios are like, what? You have some Neumann EQs? Where did you find those? So, yeah.
Would you consider yourself a collector of the fine equipment?
Yes, I do. And, you know, because one thing about me is I come from the era of hardware, right? Of actually tactile touching the gear.
Yeah.
I do a lot of in-the-box stuff as well. I got all those plugins, but I try to make sure that almost everything I have is a plugin I have the hardware of. So I have a bunch of SSL plugins. I have SSL gear. I have API plugins, API gear. I have Neve plugin 1073s. I have a couple of Neve 1073s. Because what if my electricity goes out? What if there's a power shortage? I still need to be able to record and do stuff. And I have, I don't know if you remember though, the Roland 1680 recorders that they had a few years back. I got a couple of those in the closet, so I can pull those out and still record. So
wow,
I stay prepared. You
have thought of everything.
I thought of everything.
Be prepared. That reminds me of that little goat. Have you watched that movie Hoodwinked that
No,
came
I haven't
out?
seen it.
Oh,
No,
it's like
I
a
need to see
cute
it.
little Disney movie.
I'm gonna go
But
check that.
it's you can probably find it online, but there's a little goat on there and he sings a song called Be Prepared, Be Prepared.
Yeah, you
Tell
gotta be
me
prepared.
at all times with your polygraph. Just joking. Okay.
Yep.
Tell me. Tell me about DJ Casanova and how
Oh
he's
man,
been an influence in your life.
man, DJ Casanova. He is he's the sensei. He is the monk at the top of the mountain.
Oh.
He is the one who I've learned from. He's the one that when he speaks, I listen. But back in the days, he was the first guy in Austin to be pressing up records, doing mixtapes. He came from New York. So he brought that whole energy of this is what we're doing in New York.
Okay.
He brought that to Austin. So a lot of us in Austin, we didn't know that you could press up your own records. We thought you needed a record label. We thought you needed a big company to do it. He was like, no. You could do it yourself. And, and also remember, he was also talked publishing. He was like, remember to own your music, publishing. So I would go to his house and I used to carry his records when he DJ'd different events, and he would go to DJ battles and I would ride with him and carry the records and be the little kid carrying the records. and I would go sit in his studio when he had, the RZA or Prince Paul or different people would come to his studio, and his studio was set up like mine with a couch in the back. And I would just sit on the couch and be the young guy and just watch and listen to them talk music business and just soak it up. And I started getting into production. Here's a funny story. I started getting into production. I was at his house one day and he was going to leave to go get some KFC or something, right? Go get some food.
Yeah.
And he said, look, he said, you can use all my equipment. And when I get back, I want you to have made 3 beats. I want 3 beats by the time I get back from wherever I'm going.
Yeah.
I said, okay, cool. So he left. I didn't even know how to turn on the drum machines,
what?
the samplers, right? Because he had like a SP 60, an ASR 10, SP 12, all those type of things. And I was like, how do you even turn these on? So I figured out how to turn it on. And I remembered how he worked on it. So I started making beats and he came back and he said, let me hear what you did. And my beats were horrible, terrible, right? But he was like, he said, okay. He said, but you took the time to try to learn how to use the equipment, right? So after that, I just became his little homie. He was like, I like that. You got that drive. You got that hunger. So he started showing me how to make beats. And out of all my records, DJ Casanova is the only person that ever made a beat for me on any of my records. On the Lost Scriptures album, he did mixtape material for me. And he's the only other person who's ever produced a beat for me, for any of my release stuff.
So you think he was putting you to the test when he left without
showing
you? Yeah.
Totally. Because the thing was, at the time, he was the guy, right? Like, if you wanted somebody to produce your record, you went to DJ Casanova. Yeah. If you wanted somebody to DJ a party and have 1,000 people there, DJ Casanova. So everybody wanted to be on his team. And he already had a group of guys. A couple of them went to high school with me. He had a group of guys, and I was just this young guy. But I never begged to be down. I never said, please let me down, or, hey, check me out. I just said, hey, I know I'm talented. Just give me a shot.
Yeah.
And that night, out of nowhere, is when he gave me the shot. So I could have blew it and said, I don't know how to work this stuff. Forget it. Instead, I was like, okay, let me try. What's this? What's that? Okay, let me try to make a beat on this. Try to make a beat on that. Beat on that. And he was like, okay, cool. You're down now. So I just became, and we're still tight. Like, I talked to him 2 days ago.
Nice.
Like, he's still my boy.
He's your mentor.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was reading a little bit about that, and I found I wanted to know more about DJ Casanova because I know he's also a Austin legend.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. I think he was the first hip hop artist in Austin to be on the cover of the Chronicle, I think.
Wow.
So he really put in that work, and and he still follows up on me. He sees what I post online. He's like, yo, that's dope. Or try this. Or, he's still being my mentor on it. And I soak it all in. Even though I'm mentoring young artists now, I still listen from him because he used to tell me, never forget you're from Austin. You're from here. Because he wasn't from here.
Yeah.
And he was like, never forget, you're from here. So it's your job to share what you know to other artists from here. He said, because one day I'm going to move or I'm going to whatever, you need to pick up the mantle. So he was already preparing me to do what I'm doing now. So he's not surprised I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm not surprised. It's just what I'm supposed to be doing.
Of course. Yeah,
So.
absolutely. That's awesome. I'm on deep breath. Do you hear my pig out there barking like a dog?
I heard him.
My pig.
I heard him on your when you were streaming the other day, and he was going crazy outside. You had to go outside and see what was going on. I saw that.
He's a lunatic sometimes. I don't know. I signed up for like a 40-pound mini pig, and I ended up with a 200-pound beast who thinks he's like a 10-pound dog. I just don't know.
Lord.
I know, but I love him. So,
yeah.
So in 2017, you were nominated for the Music Hall of Fame for your 30 years of work in the Austin, Texas music industry. How did it feel to be awarded or to be nominated for an award like that?
Wow. That was I'm still speechless about it, right? Because I just do the work. I just create the music. I just educate the artist. I don't do it in hopes of being rewarded, right? I just do it.
Sure.
So when they wrote me and said, "Hey, we're going to nominate you for the Austin Music Hall of Fame," I was like, "Wow, like really? Like, okay, you know what I mean?" Because like I said, I'm from Austin. I'm from the east side of Austin, right? Like I'm from where you're not supposed to become a success. You're not supposed to get acknowledged for doing anything besides, being a thug or sports or any of that type of stuff. And for me to come from there doing music and for them to say, you have garnered enough, success and achievements to be in the Austin Music Hall of Fame, that was amazing. And story about that, I got a bunch of multiple stories.
Okay.
A story about that. Another band who was nominated and got in that same year was Beto and the Fairlanes.
Okay.
And I mentioned Beto because when I was young, remember I told you about Jan Bozarth and she gave me that book of music?
Uh-huh.
Well, her ex-husband is Beto from Beto and the Fairlanes.
Oh, how cool.
So he saw me way back and got me to be on an album with them called Salsified, which was a jazz, funk, Cuban, hip-hop track they were doing.
Okay.
And they got it. They actually made it into the Austin Hall of Fame. But that record was released on Antone's Records with Antone's Club. So I'm the only hip hop artist that's ever been released on Antone's Records.
Really?
Which is a blues label. Yeah, I'm the only hip hop artist. But it was a blessing to be nominated the same year as them. And when I found out that they were nominated, I felt like I shouldn't have been nominated because they've done so much. I wanted to be there to cheer them on and not be in competition with them because I'm like the eighth member of Beto and the Fairlanes. They're like my uncles.
Yeah.
Right? It's like family. So that was a cool thing that we were both nominated in the same year. And I'm glad they got in because they deserved it from, 40, 50 years of performing in Austin.
Hard work and being a big influence on what you're doing today as well. Yeah. So you have a nonprofit did you establish this yourself, the Urban Austin Alliance?
Yeah.
Basically, you are taking at-risk youth, or maybe youth that are living in poor, underserved communities in Austin, and you're opening your recording studio to them and sort of mentoring them the same way that you were mentored as well?
Yeah. So I started the Urban Artists Alliance because I felt that there was a need for it.
Okay.
It was lacking in Austin. Austin has a bunch of music nonprofits. We have tons, but a lot of them don't really cater to Black and brown people.
Sure.
And so I feel like we needed something like that. So I've always been the type to not be complaining about where is it, how come nobody's doing it, and just do it myself. So I created Urban Artists Alliance, and I worked with the Boys and Girls Club, and I did a music class teaching them. I went back to my junior high. I did a songwriting class with them. And I still, I work at the Austin Music Foundation and I mentor artists through them. That's and nice. Of course, I bring artists over here to my studio just so they can see real gear. Yeah. And most artists who come over here, we don't even record. it's all conversation. They look at me as a big brother, because some of them need a male figure just to talk to about what's going on in their houses, what's going on in their life. They have a song they wrote, and in the streets, they're tough, but this song is about love.
Yeah.
And they want to know how would people perceive it if they show that. So, you know what I mean? Just conversations. And so I'm real honored and blessed that when I can do that and give back to youngsters, because when I was young, it wasn't a bunch of mentors around. You know what I mean? You basically had your parents, your dad, which I'm blessed. He was there, a hard worker, and your neighbors, and that's who raised you, right? So it can go good or bad. But now some of these guys are like, hey, I'm going through a rough time. T, what should I do? And then sometimes I tell some of them, put music on hold and go get a 9-to-5. Go work. Go get your life together first.
Yeah.
Because if you're not stable and prepared with your own life, your music is going to be chaotic. It's not going to be anything. It's just going to be a bunch of stuff garbled. So get you together. Do some self-help. Get yourself together. Talk to people. Share with, and then come back and we talk music. So I've been doing that, and a lot of people I work with, they follow me on Instagram and I follow them. And when they do something cool, they'll tag me and say, hey, T, I just did this. And I give them that encouragement. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Keep going. Because sometimes people just need somebody to pat them on the back and say, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Sometimes that's what you just need to hear. Is just
you don't need all the extra drama and the extra whatever. You need somebody to say, I mean, that's great. That's good. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep doing that. That's positive. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
And so I feel good doing that.
Yeah, I think we all have enough drama going on in our lives.
Totally. My mom still does that. You know what I mean? I told my mom I was doing an interview with you. And she was like, that's so awesome. Oh my God, that's great. Tell me about it when it's done. Like, it's like I'm still 8 or 9, right? Like my mother has never told me I couldn't do anything. Yeah. She just told me, how good can I do it?
Yeah, that's awesome. My mom the same. She worked 12-hour shifts. She raised me and my brother by herself, and put my bass on layaway so that I could play. And she was the biggest inspiration in my life too. And now my brother's a band director, and I'm over here, doing my thing and talking to you. Yeah,
amazing.
man. So once again, thank you to all the mothers and fathers and parents and grandmas and uncles or whoever encourages music in people's lives, because I think it's very, very important to introduce it at any age, but especially when you're young. I think the younger you are, the more you can soak up more information, and you have less of the drama and everything to hold you back. So yesterday I watched the whole Moog. Wait, Moog or Moog?
Moog.
Moog. The whole Moog.
All you gotta think, when you think of Vogue. And it's Moog.
Oh,
and there you go.
I'll never forget it now.
There you go.
So I watched this documentary yesterday. Dude, and he's so cool. Like he's like a scientist, that developed these synths. Like he wasn't even like really like a musician
at all.
Did it more as like math, and like he loved like being able to like make the hardware talk is basically like how he made it sound. And I didn't know that he actually was the inventor of the theremin, which the theremin is like one of like
it's an amazing instrument.
It boggles my mind the way that it's utilized, and I've seen Gabby Lala play it live before, and I've seen multiple other. I've just always been kind of obsessed with it because it's just so like magical and mysterious. I guess
it's like the theremin is like a dance. It's like salsa dancing, right? Because you got to use both hands, and you got to really pitches and depths and use the whole space. Like it truly shows you about the electricity that's in the air, because that's basically what you're doing. You're playing the electricity and pitches and frequencies. It's an amazing instrument.
That somebody would think to create it, it's just like the human brain. Like people are so smart and so stupid at the same time. So with that, so after the Moog documentary, I watched a Bernie Worrell interview just because I love Bernie so much, and his whole story just to me what towards the latter part of his life, it kind of just like broke my heart, because he was just such a huge part in funk music and everything, and it really anyway, so I watched the interview yesterday, and to hear him talk about the synthesizer and about how he, like, to him, it was very sexual, is how he, like, described it. Like, if, you know, first you have your foreplay, you know, and then, you know, you do your little bits and your pieces, and then you come to the climax, you know? So I loved the way that he compared it to sex. I thought that was, like, a great reference. And may he rest in peace. Special man, made amazing music.
Totally. And that goes back to, you know, when you have hardware that you touch, like the Moogs, like Bernie Worrell's more like the Model D Moog, right? So it had tons of knobs on it. So you're really interacting. You hit a key and you pitch an oscillator, and then you turn another knob, and that gives you a pitch and the depth of the keys. And it's so, you know, just like my my Prodigy right here, which is basically like a cut down Model D, right? And it's still, you know, it's the same thing. You have the knobs and the switches, and you really interact with it. And you don't really have to be a virtuoso as far as playing. Bernie Worrell he was a child prodigy.
Yeah. Right? At 9, he wrote his first concerto.
Yeah, he was a child prodigy. But if you're not that swift on it, like I can't get on the piano and be blah, blah, blah. But with a Moog, you can get on it and touch knobs and keys, and you know, it kind of tells you how to play it. It tells you how to play it.
Yeah.
You don't get on a Moog and decide that you're gonna go wow wow. It tells you what to do. It tells you what to do.
Yeah, I was watching a lot of videos. Remind me of the one guy who's super famous for using the huge ass Moog on stage. I have his name written down somewhere.
Oh my God, is that Brian Eno? I think maybe.
Yeah. Oh no, Keith Emerson.
Yeah, Keith. I think there was an E in there. Yeah, Keith Emerson. He had that huge one. Yeah.
It was so massive, and like he's like switching out like the little chords and doing this.
Yeah,
and
that's insane. That's insane.
It was insane. And not only that, apparently, like after 2 songs, the thing would go out of tune. So then he'd have to stop the whole show and like tune it back up. And then there was this whole controversy whether or not like is synth a real instrument or is it not, because it's not made out of like wood and strings and all this, you know, whatever the you know, controversy
that was just like what the Tonto, which was like a Moog, a big huge Moog like that Stevie Wonder used when he was doing like Songs in the Key of Life, In My Mind, all those type of albums. His producers had a big thing called the Tonto, which was a bunch of Moog modules together that Stevie Wonder would play the keys, and they would turn the knobs and find his sounds for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's very interesting. Yeah, just the whole history behind the synthesizer. I mean, I could just go on and on about it. It was just, it blew my mind. He compared it to an erector set, which was super hilarious because when I was little, I always wanted an erector set. When my mom got me one, I was like, oh, I'm going to build a car and I'm going to do all this stuff with it. So I had a great time watching that documentary, and I hope that everybody at home, you know, if you don't know that much about the synth or the history of the synth or anything like that, watch the documentary. It's literally like an hour long, and it's worth the knowledge. So I wanted to play a little game with you. Because I know that you're an audiophile.
I hope so. We're about to find out.
Yeah, and so I'm going to show you some records. And I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to identify the record. And we'll see how many you can get right. I only have a few. Okay. Some of them have the name on them, so I'm going to try to cover the name. I did try to pick Texas-based artists, but not all of them are Texas-based. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready to play Audiophile 101 with Sunshine Can Do? Starring the one and only T-double-O-O. Ready?
Yeah.
First album cover.
Oh my God.
Victor Stereo, RCA Corporation, 1970.
Oh my God, I have no idea what that is, but it looks
No?
cool as hell. No.
I know it looked cool as hell. That's the only reason I bought it, okay, at the Goodwill. This is hot tuna.
Oh.
Okay. How do you feel about hot tuna? Do you know anything about hot tuna?
I've heard of hot tuna. I've heard the name. I don't think I've heard much of the music though.
I only bought it for the record cover. I probably still
cool.
have not played it.
It looks cool. It looks cool.
Okay, this one. You ready?
Yeah.
Columbia Pictures. 1975.
Oh, Tommy or is that it?
Yep. Good job, Tommy.
Okay. Whew, that was close.
That was close. And it comes with a super cool insert.
Yeah.
That has all the lyrics and everything printed on it, which I think is super cool. All right. 1 down, 2 down. We're your +1. Ready for the next one?
Yep.
This is a Texas-based artist out of Austin, Texas.
Oh my God. I know who it is. It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh my God.
Woo, 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 woo. And don't be busting out your phone trying to Google this either, because I'm watching you.
Oh my God.
Okay.
It's on the tip of my tongue. I know. I can't think of it, but I know who it is. When you say it, I'm gonna be like, yeah.
Towns Van Zandt.
There it is. I knew it was something like that.
That was easy. Okay. I know you'll know this one for sure. Ready?
Yeah. Oh, that's that P-Funk. That's that Parliament Funkadelic right there.
Yes. So,
come on, man.
Dude, I don't know if you saw my interview with Henry Invisible, and I know that you work closely with Henry Invisible, but I had him on my last show, and I had to show him this album, so I have to show it to you too, because I know you're a huge P-Funk fan. This is the one, I don't know if you've seen it before, but it opens up into like the 3D like castle thing or whatever, and it has like the paper doll cutouts too. That dude,
wow.
Yeah, look at that. Like, what the heck? I haven't cut them out because I feel like that's probably something I shouldn't do, but I've been wanting to ever since I got it.
No, keep it like that.
I know, I will. I promise.
Yeah, Henry's doing stuff with Bootsy. He's on the Bootsy team.
I know. I'm super stoked for Henry.
I'm excited for him. Yeah, I'm excited for him.
Did you see my picture of me and Bootsy at NAMM this year?
No, I didn't.
T-double.
I'm slipping.
Don't worry, I will message it to you right after this. Okay, are you ready for the next two?
Yeah.
We have 2 left, so you can make up for the last. I think you've got one. One right so far, 2 right. Okay, ready?
Yeah. Is that
also a Texas artist?
I know. God.
1994. Yeah, I know you thought I was gonna pull out some hip hop stuff, and I done messed you all up.
This is the
insert.
It's not Sexton. It's not the Sexton guy. My God, I know who that person is. Buckley. There it is. Yeah.
Jeff Buckley. I love that I can stump you.
Jeff Buckley.
Touch up for the win.
The thing with me is I'm excellent with visuals. Like I know those records.
Yeah.
It's just that the name and the titles, I'm just like,
Okay, last one.
Okay.
Ready? Also, Austin, Texas based artist. One of my very favorite Austin, Texas based artists. He did pass away last year. I gave you a clue, okay? But there were a few that passed away last year. That broke my heart. You ready?
Yeah. That 13th floor elevator.
Yes.
Yep. Classic.
Rocky Erickson, 13th floor elevator. I have this tattooed right on my leg.
Classic record.
I got that tattooed when he passed away. I love Rocky Erickson. Well, T-double, I give you a 70%. You know.
Okay. Yeah, I did pretty good. That was easy. That was easy.
Next
time. I need
one
of those.
Hey, dude, it's cool for my pig because it's funny when you see a pig push one of those things and you like.
Right. Buddy.
Next time I expect you to know all the albums.
I know.
But dude, thank you so much for playing along. That was a lot of fun. And I tried to pick some really difficult ones for you.
Yeah, that was fun. Like I said, I'm great. I'm great with the visuals. Like I can remember a face from years ago, but the name.
Yeah. Oh, you're like me. Yeah, I have introduced myself to people before like 5 times, and then you know once you've already done it a couple of times, because then they start rolling their eyes like, yes, I already know you. You've already introduced yourself to me. I'm like, oh, about that. So apparently I'm bad with names and faces, but that's okay. Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. Tell us what you have planned for your future. What could we expect from you?
Well, I'm working on a new T-Double album. Taking my time with it. I'm organizing a lot of tracks. Like I said, I have some stuff with Henry the Invisible. He recorded some stuff for me. I have about 2 tracks with Adrian Casada from Black Pumas. That we're working. I've known him for years. So the good thing about the pandemic is now everybody's at home, so we can all work on music now, and nobody's on tour, right?
Yeah.
So it's the time for us to start knocking out some of these records. So I'm doing a lot of that. Of course, I got some films in the works and some sync stuff that's paying the bills. So just staying busy and just being in the studio every day, just recording, you know what I mean, letting life dictate where the music's gonna go. I don't wake up and say, I'm gonna make a song about this today.
Yeah.
I just wake up and see what's gonna happen, and that'll just dictate where my music's gonna go.
So what would be your advice to artists who maybe during this time are depressed, or maybe they feel they're like had a like holding place, they don't really know what to do, they've been dependent on like live shows, and do you have any advice to give struggling artists out there?
Yeah, well, I say right now, if you're an artist, it's time for you to do some business house cleaning. Look into make sure you have publishing for your songs. Make sure you have some copyrights for your songs. Maybe go back and check your online sites and make sure your music is still on those sites and you're still getting paid from those places. If you have a website, go to your website like I do. I go to my website, you know, I try to check it as often as I can for my links to make sure my links still work. Because people can go to your website and they click on the link to buy, it no longer works. So you lost the sale. So right now is a good time just to, you know, give your career a tune-up. Like you're taking your car in, right? Check that oil, make sure it's still doing that. If you don't have a website, right now it's the perfect time to make a website. You know what I mean? Because now you got time to sit around and really focus on what you want in that website. Because performing as we knew it is done.
Yeah.
Sadly, right? Like touring is not going to be the same. Performing locally in your city is not going to be the same. I live in Austin, Texas, where we have, you know, a random number of probably 600 venues all around town. Everything is closed right now. Yeah. So musicians who made their life performing weekly don't have that revenue stream anymore. So now it's the time to think about getting online, creating something that you can get your fans to follow you. Hopefully, before the pandemic, when you did a show or you had a website or on Facebook, you got some emails, right? A lot of people stopped doing that. They stopped getting the information from their fans because they can see you at a show. Yeah. They can see you on Facebook. So a lot of people stopped that part. But if you still did that, now you could email 1,000 fans and say, come to tdouble.com now. I'll be live streaming every Wednesday. And so you just transition them to your new platform. So now's a good time to think about how to do that with your fans and how to bring them closer to you.
So
if there's a venue that really loved you, like they said, and really supports you, get them to invest into your music as well and become sponsors of your site and help you continuously bring traffic to your website and say, look, if you become a partner with me, every album I sell, maybe you'll get $1 from, or maybe, you know, this artist will go to your site and order a curbside pickup of a beer.
Yeah.
Right? There's ways to make partnerships now without breaking the bank on either party. But now's the perfect time for artistic house cleaning. Get that in order. So when the pandemic's over, we get back to somewhat type of normal.
Yeah.
You have all that stuff in place when you get back out there in the world again.
So it's almost like we're going backwards. Like it almost seems like it's always like that in life, right? Whatever, it's always a circular, that's just life in general. But when, something as simple as an email, like back in the day, that was like the most important information you needed to keep in touch with, your fans and stuff. And people did really take that for granted. I think as, social media and everything became super popular, people stopped collecting the information. And you're right.
Yeah, because you think about it with social media, Facebook, Instagram, all these outlets, they're collecting that information. They're not sharing it with you.
Yeah.
When you get a new friend request, you get a new friend, that information is algorithmed and tallied with the mother company, Facebook or Instagram. You don't get that information of an email unless you specifically ask that person, can I have your email?
Yeah.
So we're losing out on the connection. And just like when MySpace, if you remember MySpace.
Oh, yes,
like
of course.
When everybody was on MySpace and then MySpace closed, everybody had to start over, building up their fan base, building up their image, building up their brand all over again. And that's soon to happen again with Facebook and Instagram. I don't hold any of these social media things like they're the end all, because MySpace was huge and it collapsed. So it can happen again. So artists need to reach out to their fans, their friends. They need to get on, make a post on Facebook and say, hey, if you like my music, send me an email to this address so you can stay up to date on my music, my shows, my live streams, and start building that list again.
Yeah.
So that way you can have a real emotional connection with your fans, and they can know what you're doing and they can feel involved with your continued growth.
Yeah. I like that a lot. So how's the best way that we can support you? If somebody wants to go out and support T-Double, what would be the best way that we could do that?
If you want to support me, you can go to tdouble.com, www.tdouble.com. And I have links to everything there, to my Urban Artists Alliance, where you can donate. There's a page on there with all my records, most of my records, my discography.
Which is like this long.
Yeah, tons of stuff on there. There's a link to my studio on there with all my studio gear. So that's the best place if you want to find anything about me. And then my Twitter and all that is on there as well. And that's a perfect example for artists, right? You want a website where people can go there and find everything they want without leaving your site to find it.
Yes.
My studio, boom. My records, boom. My Urban Artists Alliance, boom. Everything is right there. My contact, boom. So it's a perfect example of how a website and connecting with your fans should be. That way you can just go to one place. Sometimes you'll interview somebody and say, how can they reach out to you? And they'll say, oh, my Facebook is, my Twitter is, with me, go to tdouble.com and everything is there for your pleasure.
We can find everything out that we want to know and more.
Everything right there.
Thank you so much. You are a huge inspiration to so many, and as you had stated earlier, you do go to dialysis. How is that working out with this whole corona thing? Do you still have to go into the hospital?
Yeah, I still go into a clinic 3 times a week to do my whole blood thing, and it's scary, you know what I mean? Because my immune system is really weak because of that. So I'm always telling people, wear your mask when you're out. If I tell people, if you don't want to wear a mask, just think about you're protecting T-Double by wearing a mask. You know what I mean? You're actually protecting somebody a real person, right? Because a lot of people with the virus and this stuff, they're like, I don't know anybody who's sick. I don't know anybody who's died. And once you put a face to it, then they can relate a little bit more and say, oh, wow, T-Double's really sick. So if I'm not wearing a mask, then I could infect this person, that person, that person, that eventually get to me.
Yeah.
So it's rough, but, even before the pandemic, I was really a loner. I'm an introvert. So I was always in the studio by myself in the house anyway. So with everybody being locked down, that hasn't changed too much.
Yeah.
I'm still doing what I was doing before then. I just leave the house to go do my treatment. I come back. That's it. Go for a walk sometime, and that's about it.
And just stay as healthy as you can.
Yeah, and just try to make sure that when I'm out, I wear a mask.
Yeah.
And I take care of my own personal thing. You know what I mean? Like, I always got my Purell, my hand sanitizer. You know what I mean? Let me put some on now. I practice what I preach. I practice what I preach. You know what I'm saying? Clean your hands, wear a mask, but most importantly, tell somebody you love them, because when people get sick with COVID, they can't have visitors. They can't have family members in there. So if you're not telling people you love them and then you get sick, you'll be laying in that bed by yourself, and the only person that'll hold your hand will be the nurse.
Yeah.
It won't even be your family. And so it's very serious. And so people need to just tell people they love them and stay healthy and talk to people about a mask and washing hands, but do it in a respectable, calm way, and not like people doing videos. They be, why aren't you wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know, just say, hey, you know, wear a mask, put it over your mouth, because there's other people who, you know, elderly, babies, you know, anybody could get sick. And the thing about this particular pandemic that we're living through right now is it doesn't pick and choose. Rich, poor, black, white, Latino, it does not matter. So you can't pretend because you're affluent or rich that it won't get you.
Yeah.
Or that you only surround yourself with you and your 10 homeboys, that it won't get you. Like be like my mom used to always tell me when I started driving. She was like, make sure you look both ways and wear your seatbelts, because not everybody's going to be as safe as you.
Yeah.
So somebody might run into the side of you, and if you got your seatbelt on and whatever, the other person might fly through your car because they didn't have a seatbelt on, but you'll live because you
were
took
prepared.
that precaution. Yep.
Be prepared.
So, you know, tell people you love them. I like telling everybody, if you read my post on Facebook, I probably end every post with love y'all.
Yeah.
I always tell people I love you. You know, I love everybody, and everybody needs to know that they are loved. No matter what they're going through, if they're by themselves or relationship or parents or whatever, children, you are loved. Your children are loved. Somebody loves you, no matter what you're going through. Somebody somewhere loves you. And if they don't, then I do.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think it's so important to just remind people to be kind, because nobody knows what the battles that everybody's facing, and everybody's, battling or having battles and going through things. And it could be as small as a tooth falling out, or as huge as your kidney malfunctioning and having to go to dialysis. And, that's strong, heavy shit, dude. And like,
it is, you know what I mean? Like when I had the kidney failure, the thing is, it just kind of happened out of nowhere. Yeah. Like I was here at the studio, and all of a sudden I was passing out and fainting, and went to the hospital, and they were like, "Oh my God, like, dude, your body is shutting down, literally." And they were telling me, call my mom, get a preacher. Like I was on my deathbed. Like they had to do blood transfusions so I could make it through the night. I was that bad, just to make it through the night. And then, it was on a Sunday. They did the blood transfusions. I woke up Monday and I was on dialysis.
Wow.
It was like that.
Just
so
that fast.
it was a life altering thing, because you're like, what is this? Like, my kidneys don't work. Like, am I going to die? How long do I have to live? You start reflecting on stuff. And I wasn't so much, oh my God, I need to change who I am as a person, right? Because I need to hug everybody. I was already doing that. I was already showing love to people. I was already that cool type of fellow. So I wasn't too shaken up about it. I had a good family around me, good support. People really had my back. And the music scene in Austin was like, yo, whatever you need, we got you. Money, donations,
that's
whatever.
Awesome. Having a support team.
Yeah, they really rode for me. So, I have no problem talking about my illness, because when I started talking about it, other people started saying, hey, I'm on dialysis too.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to talk about it. And I didn't have nobody to talk to. Yeah. So people would hit me in chat on Messenger and being like, I'm going to dialysis. What should I expect? Well, so we have a little community now with that. Because when it happened to me, I was like, should I talk about it? Yeah. Right? Because it's a real personal thing. Or should I just keep it to myself? And I waited a day or two, and I said, forget it. I'm going to tell people what's going on with me, just so they know in case I get sicker, right?
Yeah.
And in case somebody else is going through the same thing. And luckily I've gotten stabilized health-wise, and because I was bedridden for a while where I couldn't walk. I had constant pain through my body. And for me to be able to walk now and be in the studio, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing. So don't take anything for granted, ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of, you know, why I opened the show with the story about, you know, something as small as the tooth or whatever, because I did, you know, I did read I have been following you for many years, and I have seen you going through dialysis and everything that's been going on, but you know, you do have a link there on your page that's, you know, for the living donation program, you know, and if somebody's interested in that, I mean, I definitely like filled out the form, and maybe we're a match, maybe we're not, you know, but at least, you know, just people like just something kind and just something to make a difference in the world, because you know there's so many people that are suffering through battles that people just don't even know. And you know, maybe you can't donate a kidney, or maybe you can't donate blood, but you know there's small simple things that you can do, and sometimes it's just smile at somebody, you know, that's really sad.
And even if somebody goes to my webpage and they fill out the living donor thing, you might not be a match for me, but you might be a match for a little kid in Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. So the options is great and vast. You know what I mean? So I look at that thing as not only helping me, but helping other people as well. Right. Like, so I just live every day to the fullest. I'm glad that I'm at a point in my career where I don't have to gig as much as I did in my early 20s, right? Where I don't have to put that much strain on my body. I'm glad that I made the right business decisions I did 20 years ago that are paying off now, right? So that's why I talk about ownership, publishing, business, because you don't know what life is going to throw at you and how you're going to handle that.
Yeah.
So when I got sick, publishing was coming in, royalties were still coming in, you know, that never stopped.
Thank God.
Thank God. So I was able to sit back, get myself together, and still let my music, my catalog, do what it needs to do.
Thank God for that. Thank God for Mom and Dad.
Of course.
I'm going to wrap this up because I know you have a lot of things you need to do. But I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had the funnest time with you.
Yes.
August the 18th, we have Urban Austin Alliance Day, and that's coming up very soon.
Yes.
And then also
September 30th.
September 30th is T-Double Day. Yeah. So we will be celebrating with you on both days. And I just want to say congratulations to you for all the hard work that you have done. You put into in helping the Austin community thrive. And thank you for just everything. And thank you for being you.
Thank you. You know, and appreciate you for your positive energy and your love and all the energy you get when you talk to people and when you're doing your thing. Like, you know, we're all part of the world, right? We're all what keeps the world spinning. So we all got to give our energy to make sure that it keeps rotating, you know, because if it stops, and we're all doomed. If the happiness goes and the energy goes, and, you know, so thank you for being you, you know, thank you for contributing to the world of music, right? Because I'm sure somebody's sitting around reading your article in Bass magazine and being like, man, some young girl is like, I want to get a bass now.
I hope so. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I want to be like Sunshine now, because they never saw that. So that's huge. That's a monumental thing for somebody to look at that and see themselves within that. So keep doing that.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for having me here interviewing you. You know what I mean? You know I love you, girl.
I love you. And this is not going to be the last time, because I'm going to bring you back around, because we got to do round 2 of Audiophile 101 with Sunshine Can 2.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
Yo, I love you so much. Thank you so much. It's been such a fun Sunday. And I got my days right now. You know, I gained a day yesterday. But yeah, dude, I love you. And we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Peace out.
Later. Take care.
Go.